I kept myself restricted to only the top 25 in the US. I said I won't go beyond that because I like my job. I like what I'm doing. I give about 7 applications, I think, in the first round. After going through the first round and once the results came in, yeah, the rejections were tough to take. The space I'm working in, it does not primarily require an MBA. For you to excel in that field, you don't need an MBA. So for me to explain why I wanted to do an MBA was going to be a challenge. That's when one of the recommendations I got from you yourself was to look at Masters in Finance programs as well. Something which initially I was hesitant to. So I went ahead and applied for that. I decided, okay, I'll go ahead with the mock application process, the map that MCB provides. The map is quite extensive, quite detailed. Getting that a list of colleges and putting them into buckets that helped me sort of create a structure. So initially my YMBA was just a bit of different fragmented parts, and then it helped come together when I used that as an anchor, and that suggestion was given to me by you. Yeah, so I got into the University of North Carolina Keenan Flagler Business School with a scholarship. And in my second round, I got into London Business School for their Masters in Finance.
What does it take to get into an elite business school? MBA Crystal Ball is a boutique admissions consulting firm. Each year, we help a select few applicants get into the world's best business schools. Here's one of our success stories to inspire and educate.
Hello and welcome to MB Crystal Ball YouTube channel. Today we have with us Siddharth, who has had a unique application journey. He saw many rejections before smartly achieving success. During our initial profile evaluation discussions itself, we had discussed the risk of going ahead with his MBA plans and had suggested an alternative too. Acknowledging these, he chose to give MBA applications a shot and work with us. Rejections followed. But he bounced back and considered a change of plan we had suggested, a different degree and another set of applications. That worked. Let's hear the details directly from him. Welcome, Siddharth.
Hi, Emily, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for talking to us today. So why don't you tell our viewers, about your qualifications, about yourself a bit?
Right. So, hi everyone. I'm Siddharth. I'm a Malayali that was born in Ahmedabad and brought up in Mumbai. So, I did all of my schooling in Mumbai, and I grew up with an interest in math and science, and sort of that led me to pursue engineering. Also, seconded by the fact that my brother had pursued engineering, so that kind of inspired me as well. So, I completed my engineering degree from SVNIT Surat in electronics and communication back in 2020. And apart from that, I'm hugely passionate about sports, especially football. I've followed the sport and played the sport for all of my life. And it's a big part of who I am. It's helped build my personality and my character as well. So that's a bit about me.
Great, excellent. Tell us about, where did you work after graduation and what was your work like? What was your job?
Right. So over the course of my 4 years at SVNIT, I sort of knew that a core engineering role is not for me. And that's what led me to eventually joining Futures First. So Futures First is a proprietary trading firm that are dealing in financial derivatives and specifically financial futures. So I joined there as an energy markets analyst. And as part of my work as an analyst at Futures First, I was given my own account to manage and the responsibility to trade in sort of one of the most competitive futures markets in the world. And I primarily traded in products ranging from different types of crude oil and products like gasoline, diesel, natural gas. And it was quite an interesting experience. I learned a lot about markets, and I also ended up learning a lot about myself. And trading in energy markets in such a time period, such as 2022, when the Russia war happened and sort of markets went through a cycle that probably has not been seen for a long time. It was definitely a once in a lifetime experience and something I'll always keep with me and remember.
Yeah, so and
So
this is
yeah.
very interesting. It's a it feels very intimidating, right? I mean, as an engineer getting into this world of trading. So how did you prepare? Any tips you have for people who are thinking of a similar career?
I think the first thing is you sort of have to go in with an open mindset. So I knew when I went into the interview itself that I'm going in with a blank slate because I don't clearly know what the job entails, but I have to sort of just back my own ability. So you have to stay a bit humble that you're going to learn along the way. You'll make mistakes. At the same time, be confident that you'll be able to overcome that. So I think trading in general as a profession is highly EQ dependent. So you always need to keep stay confident yet stay humble, I would say. So that would be the
Yeah,
best process,
that's
and
very
say always
interesting
learn,
advice.
like be ready.
Right, right. And I mean, from a hard skills perspective, on the financial aspects, on the actual kind of financial products aspect, how did you kind of any sort of resources that you would recommend people look at?
So Futures Plus as a firm is actually now they're quite mature in terms of there's a lot of modules within the firm itself that help guide you, that help teach you all of the basics about what futures markets are, what financial derivatives are, and how you can use them, how companies use them, how actual physical players are also using them. So they give you quite a lot of information on that. As such, uh, a lot of the exchanges also have material, so they also have learning material which we also relied on. So I think that, and now everything is available on YouTube. You can, and as simple as something like a chat GPT search helps you so much now that you can actually just go ahead and start picking up basics, start learning a bit, and yeah, then sort of piece together things. And at the end of the day, I think it's a lot of experiential learning. You, as you do it, you then learn a lot about it. So we spent about 4 to 5 months of just preparation before we actually went into live markets. So, and the actual learning started after that because that's very different between theory and execution. So, that entire experience
Right,
is,
that makes sense.
yeah,
That
it's
makes
good.
sense. So coming to, I mean, after kind of having this career for a few years, I mean, when and how did you start thinking of an MBA? And as you did that, I mean, also comment on your, GMAT journey. How did that go?
So I think the MBA plan was always sort of there. I think as I mentioned, I realized engineering wasn't really where I'd spend my career or most of my career. So I was looking at other options and I was trying to think in terms of the skill set I would want to use. And I always enjoyed the managerial aspect or the mostly the personal people aspect that's involved. So I always felt like that might be for me. Apart from that, even though I had a lot of inclination for math and science, I think finance and economics were sort of subjects that I felt I wanted to dive into, but I just held off. And so I knew that maybe somewhere along the line, that's something I'm going to do, either in the form of a CFA or an MBA. And so I actually gave CAT every year for since my graduation. I gave the exam every year, mostly actually to just stay in touch because the year I would want to eventually like seriously pursue an MBA, I wouldn't have to struggle as much giving the exam. So that's why I wanted to just stay in touch with the exam. And secondly, I also enjoyed the process of giving the exam. I learned a lot through it. So having done all that, then after about 3.5, 4 years, I sort of decided that I think it's time. I've gone through every market cycle or a lot of market cycles in my 3.5, 4 years working in the energy markets. So I felt that I've got a good sense of the experience and what it is like. Even the journey further, I would know what it feels like. So now I can actually go ahead and pursue my further studies. And that's when I decided that I'll pursue an MBA. Now, when it came to deciding between whether to do it in India or do it outside of India, that was more a case of because I had 4 years of experience, I was already bordering on what in the average class experience is in India. So I was already on the border for that. And I also spoke to a lot of my peers that actually did their MBA in India. And what I learned is essentially the MBA is whatever you want to make of it. So you have your set of goals that you want from the MBA. And the way I thought of it is my master's has to be something that gave me that exposure and gave me and since I already had worked, I had already been at a national institute at SVNIT. I felt that now I wanted more of a global exposure as well as building a global network, because I felt that's now the next path for me. And that's how eventually I decided I'll look for an international MBA, and then I went ahead with the GMAT. I can detail that further for you if
Yeah. I think
that's what
it'll
you.
be interesting to hear your GMAT preparation strategy. What score did you get? How did that journey go?
Yeah. So I gave the GMAT for the first time in 2023. And as I had mentioned, I had given the CAT a couple of years. So I did not feel like conceptually I had to adapt as much. But I gave myself about a few months and I gave the official GMAT, which was the old GMAT at the time. I got a score of 710, which is a respectable score, but given my background, I would say that it wouldn't help me target the top schools. So I just felt that I still had furthermore to improve on. So I gave myself more time, and then a year later in 2024 is when I applied. When I again gave the GMAT, I gave the GMAT Focus this time. I felt the focus would actually help me a bit more because it was more logical, more analytical and logical. The component was more for that, so I felt that it would work for me. I spent another say 2 to 3 months. I mean, I was constantly on and off, but I would say it was good 2 months of practice where I was using all the official resources. I was using GMAT Club. I was using whichever YouTube channels I could find. So GMAT Ninja was one of them that really helped me. And using all of that, I eventually got a score of 735 in the GMAT Focus. And once I got that score, I was pretty certain that that's all I could do on that front. And I think now I could move on to the applications. And that's when I decided to move on
Yeah,
from.
absolutely. That's what a fantastic score that you got. But despite the score, tell us what were your concerns as you went deeper into the process, and why did you decide to kind of, still go ahead with your MBA application? What was your kind of decision making process?
Right. So, I mean, the in general, what I had always heard, and also I felt it firsthand afterwards, was that the entire application process is more than just a few set of numbers. So, I knew that on the score front, I was okay. But when it came to firstly the fact that futures first is the space I'm working in, it does not primarily require an MBA. For you to excel in that field, you don't need an MBA. So for me to explain why I wanted to do an MBA was going to be a challenge. And there weren't a lot of employees from Futures First that went on to do their MBA. Very few handful were there. So I knew it was a tough thing to explain. That was the first challenge I felt I had. Secondly, ever since probably after my 10th or 12th grade, it was all about academics, and I had to decide how much time I could allot to everything else. So I just decided I'll give everything else to football. Now, I obviously, as a person, it helped me a lot. I learned a lot. But if you think about it in terms of CV points, it doesn't add as much volume. And I felt the effect of that when I was going through the applications, that I could only speak about my experience with football, or I did not have that many varied activities that I could select from or that I could show. And I felt that that's very important in this process. So in the form of extracurriculars or in the form of volunteering, that I needed something more. So I felt that that was where I was lacking, and I had to sort of try and bridge that or try to shape it in a better way.
Sure. Got it. Man, so you kind of went into it with a positive mindset. The first set of applications did not work out, right? So tell us what were your emotions, how did you take the rejections, and, what kind of pivot did you make?
So yeah, the initial I gave about 7 applications, I think, in the first round. I got 2 waitlists and one I converted one college. I knew in terms of selection of the college also, I kept myself restricted to only the top 25 in the US. I said I won't go beyond that because I like my job, I like what I'm doing. So I would only choose something else that's really worth an opportunity that would that I couldn't pass up on. So after going through the first round, and once the results came in, yeah, the rejections were tough to take. I mean, some of them probably I expected a better result, uh, but that's just how it is. And I think in that sense, my work has helped me take those hits a couple of times. So I just took it in my stride and then thought of, okay, what's next? Since I had one convert, I could still try and keep that as backup and move on to whatever is next, on improve on those. And that's when one of the recommendations I got from you yourself was to look at masters in finance programs as well. Something which initially I was hesitant to, because I just felt I wanted a more complete, a holistic experience that an MBA provides. But again, going back to the same point of what you want from your MBA, or in this case, what you want from a master's. So, a school like London Business School was still providing me that, but in the form of a master's in finance. And yet, it was teaching me everything that I was going to be taught, that I needed to be taught. And I knew that given that I've worked 4 years in the financial services industry, most likely I'm recruiting for finance. Even if I am in an MBA program, that's where I'm going to be recruiting. So then I felt that it doesn't make a big difference that if I then pursue a master's in finance, it still gets me to where I want to be. And since the master's in finance at London Business School offers such electives that can give me a flavor of what an MBA feels like, I felt that it was a good program to apply for. And so I went ahead and applied for that. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And I mean, during this process, also talk about, how did you feel working with MCB? With what, about the process, that you may have liked. How did that pan out?
Right. So I actually started with MCB back in, I think, 2023. I had done a profile evaluation. That's how I initially started. That's how I got in contact with you as well. And I felt the reviews were very honest and constructive. And I think that I think I needed that. So after doing a bit of research, I decided, okay, I'll go ahead with the mock application process, the map that MCB provides. And the map is quite extensive, quite detailed. And once I went through that, getting that list of colleges and putting them into buckets, that helped me sort of create a structure, a map of, okay, how I'm going to go about with my applications, which are the programs I can target, which are tougher for me to get into, and sort of structure things that way. And then yeah, eventually moving on to the essays, I think that was, I mean, I wouldn't have thought of myself writing such a detailed or such a coherent essay, but it came there after a couple of reviews, couple of discussions, also in terms of certain stories that, like, for instance, I wasn't initially going to bring about my dad's career in the banking industry as something that helped me decide on my MBA. Because so initially my MBA was just a bit of different fragmented parts, and then it helped come together when I used that as an anchor, and that suggestion was given to me by you. So sort of those little bit of clues, a little bit to keep the mind churning ideas, think of what else I can add. That was very useful to put everything on paper and then start forming that skeleton. So I think overall, even in terms of uh, timing, it helped me. I did not know how much time it would take for each application, how long it takes for going through 4 or 5 essays, going through 4 edits, 5 edits of the same essay. So that whole thing was also quite a process that yeah, I learned and I enjoyed through it.
Excellent. Yeah. And I mean, so you interviewed both with MBA schools and the masters in finance, right? I mean, so any kind of similarities, differences that you'd like to share?
So I think they're quite similar. At least the international MBAs. I've given a lot of MBAs and MBA interviews even in India, but the international MBAs are quite similar in the sense they're very conversational. So you just have to be yourself. And I think what helped me was sort of I've treated the interviews as a process of not just them evaluating me, but me evaluating them. So I ask them questions. I want to know about them. I want to know why they are where they are. And I think that helps a lot, showing that genuine interest of why I want to be in that program. Why is that the program for me? That really helps. Being clear on your idea of what you want in the future. I think that's like fundamental. You have to have that for any interview. Yeah, and overall just being yourself, because they're conversational interviews. You have to be as relaxed as you can be and just uh, be ready to answer things on the fly.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
yeah.
And so you got a admit from a USB school with scholarship. Tell us what the name was, and then also LBS Masters in Finance. How did you decide between the two as well?
Yeah, so I got into the University of North Carolina, Keenan Flagler Business School, with a scholarship, and in my second round, I got into London Business School for their Masters in Finance. Um, I think I was, for the most part, I was certain I wanted to go to the US. But then, of course, I mean, you have to also consider how political, how everything is changing,
Yeah.
in on that front. And then considering that, and also the fact that I think brand value is quite important going ahead in the world. So I knew that I needed a brand value that's more global, that I can use even when if I have to come back to India, because that's a very realistic possibility now for international students that you have to come back. So I knew that I needed that. And considering that, I spoke to a lot of students from both schools. And yeah, then for me, I mean, you also had the added, they're quite different programs. One is a 1 year program, one is 2 years. So even in that sense, it was quite different. But yeah, that's how eventually I felt, okay, London Business School was a better fit for me. And that's how I decided to go ahead with that.
Excellent. So, now that, you're headed there, any kind of closing remarks or tips, you might have for future applicants, what you should have done, what you wanted to do, how it went.
I think firstly, when you're going for any application, I think this is one thing I learned from you, that you have to speak to a lot of students from those schools to know really what the culture
Yeah.
is. So that's how you can then frame the answers. You can frame the answers that suit you and them, you know. So I think that's very important. That's something that you have to do. And overall, it just helps you, I've connected with some very good people, and I'm sure I'll stay connected with them. And even though I've connected with them just for an application, but I'll stay in touch with them, and that'll be a network that I can tap into maybe in the future. So I think that's one thing I think is something that I think everyone should do. Secondly, I think I have no regrets. I applied to, I knew that this was my only set of applications that I'm sending. So I did apply to really ambitious schools, the Harvard, the Stanford, but because I knew that at the end of the day, I don't have to have any regrets. I'm going through this cycle once in my life and I'll do it. And so I didn't have any regrets doing that. You'll have few rejections, but I mean, you have to get used to that in the world. So you just have to take it in your stride. Um, yeah, and if I had to go further back, maybe I would have done a few more activities that could have added CV points, which I never thought, I never valued that much. I just uh, thought of what interests me and go ahead with that. But maybe that is another factor that I could have considered long ago. But overall, it's okay. I mean, I am who I am because of all of that, so it's fine.
Excellent. Thanks so much for talking to us, Siddharth, and all the best with your superstar career in the world of finance in coming years.
Thank you,
Thank
Andy.
you. You take care.
We hope you found this interview helpful. At MBA Crystal Ball, we've helped many applicants get into the elite business schools, often with scholarships. Reach out if you're looking for professional help with your applications. Good luck.